Hello all you gorgeous historians out there, welcome back. I am so excited to start our next set of video notes with us. Chapter 8, Lesson 3. We've been seeing a lot of how Greek culture influences our own, but what we haven't seen is how that spread has happened. And a lot of it comes down to one specific leader who wasn't actually even Greek, but loved Greek culture so much he wanted to spread it around. Now, we know that strong leaders can bring change to society, and Philip II and Alexander the Great, two strong leaders, spread Greek ideas to the lands that they conquered, and it changed the entire course of the world. So let's see a little bit more about who these leaders were. And you guys know my voice has been kind of going in and out doing this nasty little sinus thing, so I apologize for sounding like a dying duck. Bear with me, guys. You know I love you. All right. So we're going to start with Philip II of Macedonia. And I want you to write Dad up here by Philip II. Oh, that's hard to see. Maybe we won't write it there. Maybe we'll write it over here. Okay. We're going to talk about a father and a son here. And Philip II is the dad. He is the father. Philip father. Kind of sounds the same. Now, as a young man, his country, Macedonia, was mostly made up of farmers. So we know this area pretty well. Here's Greece down here. Here's Macedonia, right to the north of Greece. Now, he lived in Greece for a long time and came to admire Greek military skill. He actually was a prisoner of war during the Peloponnesian Wars. So remember that our neighbors are always watching, or our enemies are always watching, right? So he learned about the Greeks while he lived there as their captive and came to admire their skill. And he became king of Macedonia in 359 BC. Now, if you remember, this is right during the time of the Persian and Peloponnesian Wars, so you better believe that Philip is watching Greece carefully, especially during those Peloponnesian Wars when our little buddies Athens and Sparta down here are fighting. Now, as king, he trained a huge army using Greek tactics, as well as coming up with some great tactics of his own. So he took what the Greeks had from both Sparta and Athens, and he made them into something new. So this right here, you don't have this picture on your video notes, but this is something called a phalanx, and I want you to write that over to the side where we talk about tactics. It's Phalanx, phalanx. And so it's a large group of men with these spears, and if you'll notice, these spears are very long. They're like 25, 30 feet long, so it's hard to carry. You have to be very strong to do it, but if you do it right, and then you are able to kind of stick them out like the quills of a porcupine. And then this second row would put theirs in between the first row. So you notice there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. And then as the first few rows maybe got injured or in a fight dropped back, the next rows would be able to drop theirs down. So you're able to keep your enemy at a distance. We know the Greeks became very divided after the Peloponnesian War, that war between Athens and Sparta. And so Philip II started using this to his advantage and started conquering one by one by one by one, just working his way down south. And by 338 BC, he had conquered most of Greece. Now, during this time, he had a son, and his son's name was Alexander. By age 16, Alexander was already serving as a commander in the Macedonian army, in his father's army, and he was very admired for his bravery and skill. So he started off real young, guys, like much younger than we would ever even allow somebody to join the military today. He was a commander. Now, part of that was because, his dad was king, so he could do whatever he wanted, but also because he was good at it. He was very brave and very intelligent. Remember, Alexander the Great was taught by the great Aristotle. Okay, remember Mr. Nicky's song? And so he read those Greek epics as a child, and Aristotle really taught him to love Greek culture. So he grew up really kind of admiring the Greeks, their culture, their literature, their lifestyle. Now, When Alexander was 20, his father, Philip, was murdered. So here's the assassination of Philip here. It actually happened at Alexander's sister's wedding. So Philip was just going to his daughter's wedding and he got assassinated. That means he was killed for political reasons, okay? So Alexander then at age 20 becomes king. I don't know about you, but most 20-year-olds I know are not really ready to handle a whole kingdom. But Alexander, man, he was ready for it. He was ready to fulfill his father's dream of invading the Persian Empire. Because by the time Alexander became king, his father had come down from Macedonia and taken over this entire alligator claw. So the only place to go next was Persia. Okay? So that was what Alexander was going to do. And also, Alexander not just wanted to make sure that they had more land, but he remembered that Persia had fought against Greece in those Persian wars, and so he wanted kind of revenge too. How dare you mess with Greece? So that was his goal. At age 20, he's going to go invade the Persian Empire. Now, he prepared for war against the Persians by developing a strong cavalry, or soldiers on horseback. So that's what we see over here. Here's our cavalry. Now, here's what I want you to do. Below the picture of the cavalry you have in your packet, it's kind of a little mini hot question. Please predict 3 benefits or positive things that a cavalry might have over foot soldiers. So how might having a cavalry in your army help you win over soldiers just on foot with swords? This is kind of like a little mini hot question, meaning if you don't do it, I will take away points. So please make sure you kind of predict and brainstorm 3 ways in which having soldiers on horseback might be better than having just foot soldiers. Now, Alexander sets off and he goes to war with Persia. By 334 BC, he defeats the Persians at Granicus here in Turkey. Okay? Then he defeats the Persians at Issus down here in Syria. So he's making his way down. By 331 BC, he makes his way to Egypt. Now, the Egyptians had been conquered by the Persians, but they hated the Persians. So they welcomed Alexander with open arms. Please come in. And he names himself Pharaoh. So now he's not just the king, but we know pharaohs are considered god kings. So he is, at a very young age, he's like 24, is both god and king. And he's taking over all this area that we have shaded. By 331 BC, so the same year, he heads back north up to Mesopotamia and starts to conquer the rest of the empire. All right, so he conquers all of Mesopotamia. He gets all the way through, and they get all the way over to the Indus River. So here's our Indus River right here, guys. All right, oh, here, let me do that in yellow so we can see it better. And his men say, listen, we've been on the road for like almost 10 years. We do not want to go across to India. There's the mountains, there's elephants, there's fierce soldiers. We do not want to mess with the subcontinent of India. And they rebelled. They said, you know what? We are heading home, and you can come with us or you can stay here. And so Alexander had to make the decision, does he try to press his men further or does he go back? So every bone in his body wanted to continue because he was just that kind of guy. He had to be in control of everything. But he decided to listen to his men and turn back. Remember, they've been on the road for like 10 years conquering all this area. So by 323 BC, he makes his way back. Let me erase this here. He makes his way back. They've kind of wound down and around. They did a little bit like this. They're going up and around to India, and now they're coming back to Babylon. And he dies just out of nowhere. there's several different reasons or different theories about what might have happened for him to have died. Some people say that he was assassinated. The primary sources make it sound like he got bit by a mosquito and then got a fever or had some sort of disease, okay? So there's several different possibilities, and it kind of depends on the source you're looking at, what they say. But the point is, at age 32, he has not only conquered all of this, but he falls ill and very, very quickly dies, leaving this whole empire up for grabs. So he accomplished more at age 32 than most people accomplish in a lifetime. Hey, I'm 33. I haven't conquered an entire empire yet. Oof. But then again, I also haven't died in Babylon. So, there's that trade-offs. So we know, guys, though, that we have a couple lessons. We've already talked about our enemies are always watching with Alexander's dad, Philip. We're also going to see two of our other ones coming into play. One, never trust your son with your empire. Alexander's only son was like a year old at this time, so that's not going to happen. You can't trust a baby with the empire. And we know, united we stand, divided we what? We fall. So let's see what happens after Alexander's mysterious death to his empire. Oh, by the way, all along the way, he named cities after himself and his horse. So if we look on the map, we can see several different versions of Alexandria, 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 and also Bucephalus, his horse. That's just fun to say. Bucephalus. He named several different places after himself. So as he traveled, Alexander's armies extended Greek rule, language, ideas, and architecture over all these areas that they conquered. This started the beginning of a whole new age, a whole new era. This is called the Hellenistic Era or the Hellenistic Age. Okay? And I want you to circle Hellenistic. This is a big deal, guys. Almost as big as cultural diffusion. Hellenistic means like the Greeks. Okay? So it's not quite Greek. It's Greek with a dash of cultural diffusion. So it's Greek mixed with Egyptian, or mixed with Babylonian, or mixed with Bactrian, okay? In this map you can see even better here all the cities he named after himself. So Alexandria, here's Alexandria, 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 and Bucephala after his horse. But all of these areas took their local culture and mixed it with Greek culture to make this new Hellenistic culture, okay? And after his death, Alexander's generals decided they're going to divide up the empire into 4 separate kingdoms. In each, the Greeks and Macedonians controlled the government. So we have the Greeks in charge of all of this big area. And they figured, we've got a lot of space to cover, so this might be the wisest way to do it. Now, I want you to think about this hot question. And think about some of our kind of phrases that we've talked about this year. United we stand, divided we fall. Our enemies are always watching. Why might they have chosen to divide this kingdom? What benefits does it give to go from one person controlling all this area to dividing it up like we see here? But also, second part, tell me the problems that might have arisen from this decision. What might be an issue with dividing it up like this? So we've got one that controls Egypt and this area, one that controls Greece and Macedonia, one that controls the rest of the Aegean Sea here, and one that controls most of what used to be Turkey. So what benefits does dividing it up like that have, but also what problems? All right, guys. Make sure you have all parts of this filled out. You will lose points if you don't. These are due, sorry guys, these are due Thursday. Hopefully I will be feeling better by then, but I do expect them done if you want credit. All right, historians, peace out. Have a good night. I will talk to you later.